All right, I'm going to talk about how we search over a bunch of data sets that are on Threads servers to locate all the data that falls within a certain time and space range and matches a certain variable. Okay, so we have a bunch of data in a catalog like this. This is one particular Threads catalog. And here we have a whole bunch of time series data. If we drill down into one of these data sets, we can see that when we get to the data set level, for each one of these, we have a bunch of services that we can access, OpenDAP, WCS, so on. And then there's this ISO service here. This is the NC ISO service. It was done by Dave Neufeld and Ted Haberman at NOAA. If you click on this, you actually get back some XML. Okay, we're not going to do a whole lot with that, but in there is information about start time, stop time, geospatial extent. We're not going to read that, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool that harvests that metadata service and puts it in a database. So you can access. We're going to use GI-cat here, and if you take a look at GI-cat, what you can set this up to harvest a bunch of different kinds of services. Actually, I'm going to jump to the page for GI-cat just to show you what that looks like. If we take a look, it's a service that harvests from just a bunch of different services. If I click on the documentation link here, they've got a nice graphic that shows basically that here's GI-cat in the middle, and it's got this ISO metadata as a common data model for metadata, and it can harvest on a schedule from all sorts of different services. And NetCDF is down here, Threads is here, the CSW service is here. So we're accessing Threads through this OpenDAP service. It's going into the metadata is going into a database, and then we can search it with these different access points here: OpenSearch, CSW, and so on. Okay. So if we go back to our GI-cat, we can see that this data here is harvesting. If we scroll down a bit, we see what the interfaces are and which resources it's actually harvesting. So we can see here that it's harvesting this data with an interval of every hour and so on and so forth. Okay, so now we're going to go to Matlab and we're going to take a look at how we use OpenSearch to actually get at the data. Okay, so we've got a little script here that's called Ocean Sites Demo. And so we pointed at that OpenSearch service here, and then we go after a particular variable, seawater temperature. Okay, we specify a bounding box, which is going to go from the lower left to minus 180, 180, which is going to be basically saying, okay, we're going to do like the whole. Or sorry, this is the Matlab syntax: minus 180 to 180 in longitude, the whole Earth, and then from minus 70 to 80. North, so almost the whole Earth except for the polar regions. And then we're gonna we can either specify a start date here, or I'm actually going to use the now command in Matlab to get the present time, and then we're going to go back 28 days as a start time here, and going to now as a stop time. We form this little query here, okay, and then this little query structure which has all that information, and then we simply point that at we actually call OpenSearch here in Matlab, and we get back links, okay, and we find the OpenDAP links from all the links that are returned, and then we go through this loop and process the data. Okay, this is all using NC Toolbox. For each OpenDAP entry, we open up the data set, and then we loop through the variables looking for the standard name of the variable that we were looking for, which was in this case sea surface temperature, and we plot it up. Okay. So let's run that and see if it works. And we got the Matlab command window open here. So let's just, I'm going to run this little demo. So it's querying the service, it's accessing all the metadata, it's finding all the metadata that meets the constraints of our search. It found these two different data sets that met the search, and now it's accessing the data and bringing up the plot. So here's the diurnal variations of seawater temperature for one of the moorings, and then in a second it'll I should slide this down, and then in a second it takes a while to access the data remotely. It's going to perhaps servers at different places, and so you can see effectively how that works. Pretty cool, huh?